All right, welcome everybody to the 5th QHSC conference. Today's conference is titled, A Culture of Safety, Will the Patient Benefit? Our members who will be helping to facilitate today are Irene Gabone, RN Med Surg. Irene, if you could unmute and say hello real quick.
Hi.
We have Keisha Muta Biilwa, BSN.
Hello.
We have George Gabone.
This is George Gabone. I am actually information systems manager, and I am in Mainville, Ohio.
Thank you. Also, Gilbert Gabone. The president and founder of Quality Healthcare Solutions and Consulting, Dr. Harriet Gabone Mwalupindi, and she will start off this conference. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you very much, and welcome to our 5th conference. We appreciate you giving us your time to come and join us. And all these conferences are first so we can share our best practice all over the world, so we can learn from each other and be able to provide the best care for our patients. And so, having said that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. So we do encourage, as an organization, we do encourage people to come and join us if you believe in our cause, which is to advance and providing education and training for medical staff, including nurses, doctors, and doing community outreach. So if you want to be a new member for our organization, just log into our website, which is right there down there, and go under member and then sign in, and you'll be able to join us and become part of our initiative, so we can reach even more people everywhere. So due to COVID, we postponed our medical mission, which was supposed to be this year in September. We postponed it until next year, but we still encourage people to sign up if you're interested to come and join us and come and find out what projects or what activities we'll be doing next year in Tanzania. And possible dates as of now is September 12 to October 2nd of 2021. And all those applications will be accepted, and then we'll be talking to you and see how you can come and bring your expertise. You do not have to be a healthcare person to come and join us. So anybody is welcome to come and join us. And then we communicate what activities you have plans. Then you will find a place that for you to come and join us to provide care to all those vulnerable populations. So coming back to our conference, our goal always is to try and reach over and try and improve quality of healthcare, which is one of our mission. And all the opinion of all the panelists who came in today, and everybody who's going to share their expertise or experience from their area as their own opinion, and not they're not representing their work of places of work. So just let's take it as that and discuss it and learn from each other, and that will be great. So to start this conference today, it's based on the creating the culture of safety, meaning everybody is responsible for where you work to create a safe place for you to work. And all our healthcare workers, specifically nurses and doctors, are supposed to answer to our patients. So our patient is the biggest employer. And so all the care that we provide is supposed to go to make environment safe for them. Also, because we work with them, so we are supposed to create that environment safer for us, also for all the healthcare workers to work. So if I provide something that is going to advance the cause of create that safe environment for people who are working over that area, then it's my responsibility also to do that. So it's a responsibility for human resources, a responsibility for the director, it's a responsibility for housekeeper, it's a responsibility for all the people who are involved working in those healthcare settings. So if we all work together, we create a safer environment for us to work and also safer environment for our patients. So we all have a say in it. So how do we reach that? And so that's the reason that we are here today, to try and provide best practice from different areas of the country, on the world, to make sure we are all working together to try and create a safer environment. So at the end of the conference, I'm hoping, or as an organization, we hope, all the panelists are hoping that you will take some ideas or some points that you go home and work, a place of work, use those content that you learned today and be able to create a safe environment for our patients and also a safe environment for you to work at. Because we all chose to come to work in the healthcare areas because we want to help people. So if that's the desired goal for everybody else, so then we should create that environment, and by creating safety first, and then provide the care for all these people who need that. To continue that, once we know what it is, and then I'm hoping that you will take what you learned today to go and practice in your setting. So as healthcare workers, as I said, we choose to go in this profession to go and help others. So we create a safe environment for us. That means we create a safe environment for a patient. So sometimes people say, oh, that does not include me as a healthcare worker, or I can do whatever I want to do. But imagine you are a patient and a nurse or a doctor is doing whatever you want to do, and then it doesn't create that safe environment for somebody who is sick. So imagine as a patient. So I do have a video. If you see the question of creating culture of safety, or from the patient standpoint, and then hopefully it is going to help us to be able to say, I don't want to be that nurse, I don't want to be that doctor. I need to do better for myself, and I need to do better for our patients. So I'm going to share this video quickly.
Hear it.
I've been a nurse for almost 40 years. I love being a nurse. I've learned so many lessons from my years in the trenches. It's a real privilege to be with people at such vulnerable times in their lives. But I'm worried. I'm worried that something has changed. Something's off kilter with the whole healthcare system and not for the betterment of patients. So what I want to talk to you about today is an experience I had recently. I want to talk about the experience I had of being a patient, a very sick patient. The experience of being on the other side of the stethoscope. Well, several months ago, I became very ill. I developed a fever of over 104. I had body aches and chills. I was vomiting. I was delirious and weak. It was the sickest I've ever been. And when my friends and family saw me, they begged me to go to the doctor. But I'm pretty stubborn. And being a nurse, I assumed it was just the flu and that tincture of time was the remedy. But after a few days, I felt myself slipping away. I felt myself going in and out of consciousness, so I decided it was time to get some help. Well, I ended up in an emergency room, a very good emergency room, in a very good hospital in a world-renowned medical center. And when I got there, my blood pressure was 60/30 and dropping. That's bad. My fever was still very high. That's bad. I hadn't urinated in days. That's very bad. My diagnosis was dehydration, pneumonia, and sepsis. That's dangerously bad. So dangerous that, in fact, almost 50% of patients with a diagnosis of sepsis die. And when I got there, and almost immediately, what I noticed was that once I was hooked up to all kinds of machines, you know the types of machines, IV pumps, EKGs, pulse and oxygen monitors. What I noticed was that there were numbers flashing on these monitors behind my head, and there were beeps going beep, 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 beep. You've all been there, you've heard it. I can actually almost smell it standing here today. And I can especially hear that constant din of noise, just the constant din with an occasional shrill alarm that goes off to tell the nurse that some number is out of range. And through my haze, I noticed that once I was attached to those machines, nobody so much as glanced my way. All eyes were on those monitors and the flashing numbers, and all hands were documenting those numbers into the computer. It was as if they trusted those numbers more than they did the examination of the patient. Machines took over. Nobody so much as looked me in the eye. Nobody palpated my pulse. Nobody listened to my heart. Nobody listened to my lungs. Nobody touched me. The stethoscopes just hung lifeless around their necks. And although everybody was rushing to enter data into the computers, nobody stopped to tell me, the patient, what was going on. It was as if they assumed that I understood. It was as if they assumed that we were all on the same page. But let me tell you, we were not on the same page. I, the patient, was not on the same page. Nobody encouraged me to drink water despite my dehydration. Nobody put a cool rag on my very hot forehead. Nobody offered to help me walk to the bathroom in spite of the fact that I was too weak to walk on my own. I believe that there's a basic difference in what doctors do and what nurses do. Doctors treat the illness or disease, and nurses treat the human response to that illness. That means that the doctor can come in and change the drug dosage and go away and come back to see if it made a difference. But the human response, on the other hand, is there 24/7. That means that we nurses must be at the bedside to attend to that human response. And attention to the human condition means that we must be with our patients. We must talk to our patients. We must talk with our patients. We must look at our patients. We must touch our patients. Yes, we must touch our patients. We're called to care for our patients. And caring means trusting our patients enough to invite them to be part of the team. Always says, once a nurse, always a nurse. Her motto has always been, nurses training, it's training for life. I am proud to be a nurse. I'm confident that real change can happen if we work together. Thank you.
Like what Ms. Sarah Cooley was talking about, seeing yourself as a patient, it will help us think for action that we are taking when we're working. Because if we want to be that patient, would you want your nurse to come and misbehave or disregard the life of you or not take care of you? Do you want your doctor to come and do the same thing? So if the answer is no, and you want better, you want people who value as a patient, then let's be those people to our all patients, whether they can pay or they don't pay, whether they are VIP or not. So every single patient has a value in the healthcare system. So my hope that at the end of this conference, we will come up and with ideas and motivation to go and make it a better place for working and safer for our patients. That means we're gonna create a culture of safety. So to start with, address different areas of culture of safety. So we're gonna cover those 5 pillars. One of them is gonna be professionalism, while we are answering those questions for Ms. Susan Cooley. Another one is gonna be teamwork, another one is communication, another one is competence and accountability. All this are directed to create those 2 goals, which is patient safety and conducive working environment. So I am gonna invite Ms. Keisha to introduce I see Dr. Mlawa is coming in. Probably we just start with Mr.
My name is Keisha Mtabirwa. I'm an RN BSN. I'm a nurse educator at the facility that I'm working. On this meeting today, that we're going to discuss about what would the patient benefits from all these factors. Now I see Dr. Mlawa is there, good. So now I'm going to introduce Dr. Mlawa. Dr. Mlawa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, are you ready? I'm gonna introduce you right now.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
So, Our first panelist is Dr. Gideon Mlawa. He's a medical director, specialized in endocrinology and diabetes. Dr. Mlawa has a diploma in medical education, graduated from Trachea University in Bulgaria. His current role is consultant physician in diabetes and endocrinologist, general intern medicine at Queen Hospital's Rumford in London. Current training program director for internal medicine, trainee both Queen's Hospital and King George Hospital, and current educator leader for acute medicine. Dr. Mlawa is one of the founder members of Tanzania UK Health Diaspora Association, TUHEDA, and the interim treasurer. Above all, Dr. Mlawa is passionate about medicine, education as a, he regards medical education as an ongoing journey and not a destination. He's also a regular panelist here at QHSC conference. Welcome, Dr. Mlawa.
Thank you very much. So thank you for your kind introduction. I'm a physician in Queen's Hospital, and I've been working in this hospital for the past 5 years now. And in today's meeting, I've been taught to discuss about few aspects of patient care with regard to teamwork, effective communication, and professionalism. But I think I'll start with the issue of professionalism, but by giving a clinical scenario. We all know that most of healthcare professionals use social media, and the social media can be a double-edged sword in terms of if you use it to be beneficial to both patients and healthcare professionals. But if you use it in the wrong way, it might breach confidentiality to patients, and therefore, in terms of our duty to maintain our professionalism in terms of maintaining patient confidentiality is important. So I'm going to give you an example of, I said Dr. Y or Dr. X, who saw a patient in one of his wards, a patient who is 45 years old lady, non-alcoholic, and she's trying to give up on drinking, but without support, sometimes you can have problems getting alcohol-related withdrawal, seizures, or just not feeling very well. And the patient was seen by medical team, treated, and with that, we involved the alcohol liaison team to see the patient and to support them in a community to make sure that if they try to give up drinking, you need support with that. But Dr. Y managed to share that case in one of his WhatsApp group, and we know that any information shared in WhatsApp group, even if it's not without identification, is not good for medical professional or healthcare worker to share those patient information on social media, because things can be, that same post can be shared to a lot of groups, and eventually the patient might come and see the post which resembles her description or his description, and as a result of that, you breach patient confidentiality, and that's not professional. So that's an example of when we talk about professionalism, we have to make sure that the patient trusts us, and therefore whatever information we get from our patients is confidential and is shared within healthcare professionals, maybe in a hospital setting, unless you've got a consent from a patient that, can I share your information maybe in a journal, or when I'm doing teaching to medical students or to other healthcare professionals. So that's the aspect of professionalism, and I've given you a scenario for this patient. But in terms of being professional when you're dealing with your patients, the patient has to trust you as a healthcare professional. The patient trusts us that whatever information they give to us, it can be confidential and being shared maybe in social media or on the platform which is away from hospital setting. That's not a professional way of doing doing things.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mlawa. That was a very good example. And we've seen a lot of people may get in trouble because of doing that. In your hospital, do you have any guidelines or anything to prepare a new nurse, let's say a new doctor or a new nurse who is coming to work at your hospital? Do you have some guidelines to help them know their limitations, what things they can or cannot do regarding that scenario you provided, for example?
So in our hospital setting, I think in most UK hospital setting, be a hospital or in primary care, I think the issue of when we get a new workforce or somebody be a nurse, healthcare assistant, be a cleaner within the hospital, coming to join the hospital, they undergo induction or training on different aspects. And one aspect is professionalism. And because the topic of social media is a very hot topic, we discuss that and it's part of induction training. And therefore we prepare our workforce to make sure that they behave and they work in a professional way to make sure that we get the best patient care and outcome without breaching their confidentiality.
Okay, thank you very much. I know all those 5 pillars I mentioned above there before Dr. Mlawa started speaking. Sometimes they intermingle or they marry each other because it depends on the scenario. And I'm going to invite Dr. Mlawa back to that scenario when we go further to other panelists, because it still applies for a lot of things. And so we want to make sure when we start asking questions about professionalism, all the panelists have completed that part. So I'm going to invite again Keisha to welcome the second panelist who's going to talk about a little bit about professionalism too.
All right, now I'm going to welcome Mr. Katunzi Imperius Mtalemwa. Can you hear me? Mr. Katunzi, are you? Okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Katunzi Imperius Mtalemwa, he's RN currently part-time teacher at Tosamaganga Nursing School. Also works as an assistant project manager of NDC's project with an organization of Doctors of African CUM, trustee in Iringa, Tanzania. Graduated with bachelor degree in nursing from KCMC in Tanzania. Author in multiple nursing books. One is Nurses' Experience for Caring for LGBTQ patients with HIV infection at Swedish Red Cross University in Sweden. And another book is Nurses, Cornerstone of Healthcare System, former chairperson of University of Nursing Student Association of Tanzania, UNISATA. Background includes organization, various community activities, and now a new QHC member. Now welcome, Mr. Katunzi.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with you this moment. I would like to add something with regard to professionalism. Actually, I should commend Dr. Mlawa for what he has said regarding to professional. By starting, I should say that nursing professionalism now is a debatable thing, especially here in Tanzania, since we have been hearing a lot of misconducts and some of the things that are going wrong. Sometimes many things have been done because people, they don't really know, and sometimes because of the carelessness. So I would like to share something in general about the self-confidence and the support to each other and the unity among nurses. And then I will start by the scenario. I think it was like last 2 weeks ago, I just heard that there were maternal deaths that happened in one hospital. I don't want to mention it. And there were like a couple of nurses who were working, and then there were like 4. And the one nurse who conducted delivery, that mother, soon after delivering, she jumped to assist another mother, and she just left that mother for some time, of which another nurse came to take a position. And unfortunately, that nurse who take a position, because the ward was very busy on that day, didn't remember to take the vital signs soon after delivery of that mother. And they just took mother to the post-nat ward. And after some time, the mother started to have the PPH. And at the end, she died. And the nurse who was watching, who was assisting them, I mean, those who were doing deliveries, she just saw that nurse that she forgot to perform to take the vital sign, and she didn't say anything. And soon after that misfortune really happened, she just came out and tried to say that the reason behind it is like this nurse didn't take the vital sign, so she could know the status of that mother soon after delivery. And then I was asking myself why this is happening, because if somebody is well entitled and having the good professional heart, for sure, she could tell them what to do soon after delivery, and then something did happen wrong, and then people were accountable. So you can just simply say, see that some of people, some of the working colleagues, they don't have the unit, and sometimes the self-confidence to shout out, to say something that somebody will have done this, but there is something missing. Maybe if she could say something like that, maybe that mother could be saved in one way or another, but just related to the problem. But also there is another problem which I can share regarding to professionalism. It is a relationship between the professionals and the society. It is, however, known that there are some of the people in the healthcare settings who are well appreciated because of their bright work they are doing. But also there are some of the people who are not well recognized because of the poor system of the poor relationship they have with society. By giving the example, there is one day, I think I was in one of the big hospitals here in Tanzania. It was morning, one of the regional commissioner once go to visit the patient. I think he was a relative. And they just found one nurse who was making, I don't know, here in Tanzania, there is something what we call the carburization. I don't know, we clean the intestines, everything. And when she just entered into the ward, that nurse shouted at her, and then she didn't know if that was the regional commissioner. And unfortunately, there is one nurse who came back, and then she was about to tell her that, please don't shout because this is the regional commissioner. And then the regional commissioner make a sign to that nurse, please don't tell her, because when you tell her, she will try to change, or she might end up with something like intention. So at the end of the day, that nurse said a lot of words which was not good. And then when she came to realize that somebody whom she was working with was the regional commissioner, it just she just felt well, and she didn't feel good at all. And this, I would like to say that this is the kind of relationship we should at some time to avoid the double standards that when you are doing the work, especially in the healthcare settings, we should attend and try to respond to all people regardless of their status and so forth. So that nurse, she just felt bad because she had responded bad to that regional commissioner. But on my mind, I thought that maybe this is the normal routine. She were used to respond in that sense to all people whom she is giving care. And finally, by finishing, I just wanted to give one example, which is more vividly on professionalism. I have been hearing sometimes that many of people who are the healthcare professionals, may I speak something on nurses, you can find that a nurse is getting out of the society and say that I have like 4 kids, but among of my 4 kids, I don't want any one of them to become a nurse, just simply because nursing professional is undervalued or unrecognized or underpaid. So you can just simply say that a professional strategy of healthcare providers basing on nurses should start by themselves of having the self-confidence. So this is really demoralizing even the youngsters who are joining the profession. I know we are learning a lot of stuff in our schools, but when we come to the settings, we have to work with seniors. What if a young nurse come to the hospital and find there is a senior who seems to be demoralized, who seems to give some of the discouraging words? This really made these youngsters sometimes to do some of the things. I think I'm going to speak much on the competence about this, but also this as a great contribution on the great demand actually in professionalism. I can just simply say that. Thank you.
Mr. Katunzi, I have a question. So do you have anything in place right now in places that you work, or as of now, that they have specific guidance to help new nurses or new employees to an area? Like what Dr. Mlawa said, they do have certain things like an orientation, or they have the guidelines that you give a new employee how to behave, how to demonstrate professionalism at that institution. So on your experience, have you had those, I mean, in the hospital that you've worked with, do they have guidelines or training for people to know what is professionalism? Because the issue could be that people do not know what is professionalism, because sometimes we have to make sure everybody in the same page on the definition, what exactly it means to be a professional. So if people do not get that definition or workable definition at that institution, we might lose people. People may behave disrespectfully without knowing that that is beyond what they're expected to do. So in your area, have you received this training or on those hospitals? Have they provided us?
Actually, I can say that these training, like induction course, they are, but you know, here in Tanzania we have a problem of recruiting these people. So especially the healthcare providers. So especially in the private hospitals, you find that these providers, they have been recruited at different times. It's not possible that all of the workers, they come at the same time. So you find some people, they just come today, other they come tomorrow. So to have an harmonization of training them at the same time is a little bit challenging. But what I know, it's like for these new young graduates, sometimes they have like 4 or 5 intervals of just giving them like an induction course, but it's not so obvious.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to reserve you again for more questions, because as I said, all these 5 pillars just intermingle and can apply for different areas, and we can ask more questions about the scenarios that you provided. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Gaboni, I was just about to echo what you were about to say. I'm not a healthcare professional, but I would say for sure for those 5 pillars, we would talk about accountability and competency. I think that what Dr. Mutalemwa, or I'm sorry,
No.
Mr. Mutalemwa just mentioned, that last scenario definitely hits on those 2 points, or the situation of the training on professionalism or resources in, where are you from, sir? What part of Tanzania?
Iringa.
Iringa. Okay, yeah. So it kind of hits on that situation. Sorry for the inter.
Okay, because he's going to come back with those area more in to explain more about the competence too. So Ms. Kisha, if you can have Mr. Richards also add.
Okay,
Hi,
so our
hello.
next is this Mr. Richards?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can,
we can hear you.
Okay, okay.
I'm going to introduce you to the participant. So is Mr. Richards Philbert, is a registered nurse officer professionally, who graduated at Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Science in Tanzania in 2016. He completed his internship at Muhimbili National Hospital in Tanzania in 2017. During his internship, he was then given the opportunity to coordinate continuous professional development programs, CPD, and he was awarded the Certificate of Appreciation from the hospital administration following the huge impact of those programs in the healthcare system. Welcome, Mr. Richards Philbert.
Yeah, thank you for the very kind introduction. Yes, as I've been introduced, my name is Mr. Ruchu Philbert. Yes.
Sorry.
Ruchu Philbert. I'm a registered nursing officer who is working at the National Hospital, and I'm also a researcher and currently a co-investigator on university studies at Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Now, back to the point of discussion, because I would like to thank the organizer of this conference, where we are addressing the area of capture of surface, capture back. Yes. Now, speaking of the professionalism, it means the quality that define a professional person. The conduct or the quality that define a professional person. It's a calling. That requires a specialized and the mastered knowledge. And on the end of the professionalism, it encompasses several attributes. There are attributes that define the professional as a care provider, as a care provider. Okay, and one of those attributes include the specialized knowledge and mastered knowledge, the competence, honest integrity, accountability, self-regulation or self-determination, and demonstrate strict moral code. So there are several attributes that define the profession as the care provider, that define the standard, the professional standard of the health care provider. And I would like to use one of the scenario on that area of professionalism, and that scenario covers the three areas: professionalism, accountability, and the professionalism, accountability, and the competence. Yes. Now, because of one of my scenario here, a patient, Mr. Hall, Mr. Hall, is a successful scenario. A patient, Mr. Hall, just had a CT scan of the abdomen, and that CT scan showed the large, on that CT scan showed the large cancerous growth, the large cancerous growth that has metastasized to the lymph node. Then that does not apply to the lymph node of the liver. Then Mr. O has his son, who is a doctor, and that son then came at the ward to ask for the result of Mr. O, the result of the CT scan. Remember, the CT scan revealed the large metastasis, the cancerous growth that has metastasis to the lymph node of the abdomen. So the question is, would you tell his son about the result of that CT scan? That's one of the questions. But also there's another question. If he can tell the son the result, and then the son asks you, telling the patient the result, the patient may die. So are you going to tell the patient the result? Will you abide to the wishes of his son of not telling the result with the concept that the patient will know the result? You get the scenario? Hello?
You're
Hello?
like almost cutting off. Is it me or just everybody can hear that? You just muffled a little bit. Does everybody can hear him?
You young?
Now, oh.
Not very well.
Yes?
It's a bit hard. Listen here, it's a bit hard.
A bit
A
hard?
bit hard.
Yeah, you're sounding like you're so far away.
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Okay, now I'm listening the scenario.
Okay, so now that's much better, yeah.
Yes. Let me give the scenario to make it clear to everyone. And that scenario poses some of the questions around the three areas: professionalism, accountability, and the competence.
Okay.
Mr. O, a patient called Mr. O, just had a CT scan of the abdomen. And that CT scan, the CT scan result reveals the presence of a large mass in the abdomen, the large cancerous growth in the abdomen that has metastasized to the lymph node in the liver. Mr. O has his son, who is the doctor. Then his son came to the ward to ask for the CT scan result of his father. So the question is, will you tell his son the result of Mr. O, who is his father? And if his son tells you, if you tell the son the result, If you say the result of his health, and the son talks to you that telling my father, look at that, my father may die. The question is, will you respect the son wishes of not telling his father the result?
So,
Yes.
yeah, so I'm gonna, before we answer your question, I'm gonna ask you the question though first. So right now, for example, do you have things in place to teach the nurses or the doctors who can share information and who should be allowed to receive? Do you have those guidance right now in place?
Guidance that?
Yeah, like for example, if if I'm sick, my family members are coming and asking the result of my testing or procedures or exams, do you have guidance right now that we educate or train the nurses or doctors what information to share, what information not to share?
Okay, thank you. For us here, they also, the institution which I'm working, they have proceedings, they have procedures that guide, that guide us during our clinical practice. And apart from those available guidelines within our working area, but there are also a continuous in-job training, different training, training that aim on creating the awareness among maybe for the new staff, even for those senior, on just to remind each other about the issues of the maternity profession and how to make the profession decision while ensuring that the decision we make is putting the patient at the center, putting the patient's interest first before anything else. So there are continuous professional training, there are continuous training for guiding the clinical practice and clinical decision making in our working areas.
Okay, so I understand that, for example, here in the United States, I know that as an educator, we were training any new employee, you get the guidelines that what things you should do, HIPAA, like protecting the patient's information, not sharing with anybody else, even family member, if the patient did not give the consent. And that includes that even if that person brought that patient at the hospital, as long as if the patient did not identify that patient to receive the information, you cannot share that information. Unless the patient said, yes, tell my daddy, tell my sister, tell my wife or husband or daughter on the paper that to allow them to share that information. Then yes, you're gonna be breaking HIPAA, and that is not, you might get into trouble with professional conduct because you share information that is not necessary. We have a saying that you only share with information with the person who is responsible for the care of that patient. So if that person is not responsible for the care of that patient, then they should not know the result, they should not know what is going on with the patient. If we were working in a team environment where you work in a team, like 3 or 4 nurses cover the whole unit, then you share information as a report because just somebody else can cover your patient when you're not there. That is a different story. But if you work in that unit, but you don't even work on that side of the unit, you're not supposed to know the other patient. So sharing of the results is always a very sticky point. You don't need to know, you don't need to know if you're providing care or if the patient says it's okay to hear.
Yes, great. Sure. And to add there, on your point, for us, anytime when we have the new staff, maybe, or we have the new workforce, there are always kind of induction or training or pre-service training before starting to get into the world for giving the healthcare service delivery. And during those pre-service training, we discuss different areas around professionalism, including the code, professional code of conduct. And for nurses, we have our code of conduct that is guiding the professional standard setting, that's guiding the ethical decision making, but that is guiding also how to change with the world is changing environment, make sure that we are providing the services that is evidence based. But apart from those trainings, we also make sure that all the staff, including the new staff, are abiding to the guiding principles for our clinical practice. There are several guiding principles, and including the less exposed for the humankind, obtaining consent before providing care, maintaining professional competence, taking the responsibility and be accountable, being successful, collaborating with others and people, protecting confidential information. So there are around 7 guiding principles of nursing practice. So we make sure that the new workforce, the workforce or the healthcare team, they are aware, they are well conversant with all of the guidance principles of our clinical practice. And among of those things we are discussing today, including professionalism, including the competence, accountability, are all one of the components of guiding principles of our clinical practice here. So one of the means we use to make sure that we are all on the same page during care delivery, we make sure that there are continuous pre-service training, but there are continuous in-job training where people will do discuss the different scenarios, we do share different ways to make sure that we make the professional decision that is keeping your patient at the center and making sure that we focus on the patient's interest first and ensuring that the decision we make is keeping the safety of the patient.
Okay, so I thank you very much, Mr. Filbert, for sharing that scenario and asking those great questions. Dr. Mlawa, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, so I have a quick question for about professionalism. So you did mention about the getting the social media, because it's widely used and there's no denying it, whether you like it or not. So what happens, for example, if a nurse, as you said, you gave a scenario with Dr. Y, but a nurse or a doctor decide to share that information outside and disclosing patient information without the consent of a patient, what are the guidelines or what are the protocols needs to be followed after to protect or to try and retrain those people to make sure that if it happens to one, it's going to happen to the next person, and so we all learn not to do it. So are there guidelines that you can provide, what you guys do in your hospital to try, if somebody make a mistake or release information where they're not supposed to?
So most of say, whether the healthcare professional, whether it's nursing or physiotherapists or healthcare assistant, we've got professional bodies. And part of that, every nurse or every healthcare professional within the hospital, they got their mentor or they got their supervisor. So if the information has been shared and is identified, that individual can be reported to their supervisor initially. And then there will be a meeting with the supervisor or their mentor to discuss what has happened, and that is not a correct way. We encourage reflection in this setting, that if you've done that, it's a wrong thing to do. Can you reflect on that? What are you learning from this? Because we are all adults, and whatever we're learning now is adult learning, and that adult learning is reflective. And someone has to reflect on that so that they learn from what they've done. And if, for instance, this has happened and the patient is aware about this, an apology needs to be given to the patient to say that it was not the right thing for that information to be shared. But the most important thing is that most of healthcare professionals, being nurse, doctors, they've got their mentors. There's mentoring schemes. We've got education and clinical supervisors for doctors. So if there are the issues which is education related, this individual can be reported to his education supervisor or his mentor, and therefore the issue discussed, but we encourage these people to reflect upon what they've done so that they don't repeat the same mistake again.
Thank you very much. That makes sense, because usually we all learn from our mistakes. So if we get those protocols in place, then you'll be able to address the issue and hopefully never repeat it again. When I used to work in Ohio, part of the educator role was after the person has done that situation, then you usually come back and do the education with that person, and then make that person go and teach others, like go and share with the nurses in the huddle, during the staff report, to explain what they did. And that also usually increase the awareness, because now you make the situation, you make the person who made the mistake research it and find information, good or bad, and then share information, go and teach others. And usually it helps to increase the awareness, because everybody knows that I should not be doing that, because if I do that, then these are the consequences that are going to happen afterwards. So that was a very good thing. Mr. Katunzi, do you have anything in Tanzania in your area that in place, if just in case if somebody make a mistake or somebody disclose patient information? Do you have that? Because I know Mr. Faber did explain how they do afterwards.
Thank you so much. Actually, even here we have something. What we do, it is like, first of all, a patient is responsible. And then when it happens that a nurse or somebody is disclosing the patient information without the consent, what they do, there is like a claiming form. So the patient is clearing or just like filling the form, and then the form is submitted either to the matron or the patron or director of nursing services. Then after, there is like disciplinary committee, so they just sit and they call those people, and depending the side of the claimer and the healthcare provider as well. And then from there, they make a decision. So first, they start by organization of profession, for example, if it's a nurse or doctor, whatever. And then after, it goes to the hospital governing board. Those are the ones who are entitled to make the final decisions. I think so.
Now that is very good. Thank you very much. So thank you all three of you for providing information on professionalism. And I know the scenario you provided do cover also accountability, competence, communication, and teamwork. So I am going to ask Ms. Kisha to introduce the next group of panels who are going to be taking care of both combined teamwork and communication. If we start with Dr. Moshi. Kisha?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Hello again. So the second panelist is going to be Dr. Anne Mush. She's MD, MRCP in UK, consultant physician, acute medicine, special interest in infectious disease, Newcastle, United Kingdom. Graduated from Muhimbili and worked in Tanzania, specialty training in the UK, and currently working in Northeast of England. Dr. Anne Mush is a returning panelist to QHSC conference. Welcome, Dr. Mush.
Asante sana. Niliambiwa kuongea kidogo kuhusu, samahani, naongea kwa Kiswahili. Naamini wote tutaelewana kwa Kiswahili. Niko comfortable zaidi kwa Kiswahili. Kuhusu teamwork na professionalism, na asante sana kwa wote walioongea hapo mbele kabla ya mimi. Na nafikiri kikubwa kama Harriet aliposema ni kwamba wote tunakutana kutoa huduma kwa mgonjwa. Kwa hiyo mgonjwa ndio wa kwanza. Na nikitaka tu ku-add kwenye professionalism kwamba tunatakiwa pia kumbuke ukiwa unamwona mgonjwa una introduce yourself, unajitambulisha, na vile vile ukiwa unamwangalia mgonjwa uhakikishe kwamba ana privacy yake. Kwa hiyo sio kwamba kama kumpima mgonjwa na vitu kama hivyo. Okay, kuhusu teamwork, nafikiri tumepata experience nzuri sana wakati huu wa corona. Nitatoa mfano wakati wa corona jinsi ambavyo tulikuwa tunafanya kazi, na kwa hiyo kulikuwa hamna tofauti, tulikuwa tunafanya kazi kama ni nurse au ni daktari. kwa sababu wote kuna nafasi moja tu ya kwenda kumuona mgonjwa chumbani. Kwa hiyo kama ni wakati wa kuchukua vital signs za mgonjwa, vipimo vyote, unaingia daktari, unaenda kumwangalia, lakini unachukua kama ni maji, kama ni chakula, pamoja na vipimo vya kumpima mgonjwa, kama ni kucheki blood pressure, kama ni kucheki temperature na oxygen sats and all that. Mara nyingi tukiwa tunaanza kazi ile kuhakikisha kwamba kuna ile kuendeleza teamwork, tunajiintroduce pamoja, kunakuwa na kama kunakuwa na kikuu, yani wote wa team hiyo ya asubuhi mnakaa pamoja, mnajitambulisha pamoja, mnajua nani anafanya kazi wapi na nani ana lead kwenye ward gani, na vile vile mnapata updates kama teamwork kwa siku hiyo. Kwa hiyo mna vitanda kiasi gani, mnahitaji vitanda kiasi gani, wagonjwa wangapi wanaweza wakaenda nyumbani, na mkishamaliza ward round mnakuwa na conference meeting au team meeting na other professions. Kwa hiyo mnakuwa na kama ni dietitian, kuna physiotherapist na nurses, mnakuwa wote na updates za wagonjwa ambao mnawaona au mgonjwa ambao umewaona siku hiyo ya leo, siku hiyo ya baada ya ward round, ambayo ina facilitate watu wote kujua. Kwa mfano, kama mfano mzuri wa Mr. Katunzi, nafikiri alisema kwa yule mama aliyejifungua alafu hakuna mtu aliyefanya vital signs baada ya hapo, kama kungekuwa na teamwork. Kwa hiyo yule hapo ni mimi nafikiria kwamba yule ambaye alikuwa anaangalia angekuwa anajisikia kwamba mimi pia ni part ya ile team ya kumtunza yule mama, asingefikiria kwamba okay, kufanya observations then I ignore that, kwa sababu sio kazi yangu mimi kumwambia yule mtu. Lakini mngekaa pamoja, mnasema okay, baada ya wanawake hawa kujifungua, baada ya masaa mawili tuambie nani alichukua observation, blood pressure ilikuwaje, pulse ilikuwaje. Inamsaidia pia mtu mwingine kukumbuka kwamba okay, hii sikufanya vizuri, kwa hiyo ningetakiwa hand over vizuri kwa mwenzangu anayekuja, kwamba kinachotakikana hapa kufanyika ni kitu fulani. Kwa hiyo nafikiri ndio nataka kugusia kwamba kwanza kubwa kwamba ni kumbuka wote mnafanya kazi pamoja, ni teamwork. Sio hakuna kwamba daktari na nurse yuko juu, hii kazi ya daktari, hii kazi ya nurse. Mkubwa mbele yenu, mtu mkubwa na muhimu zaidi ni mgonjwa. Hakikisha kwamba mnakuwa na communicate na mgonjwa na mna communicate kati yenu, ili kuhakikisha kwamba huduma mnayotoa kwa mgonjwa ni salama. Yeah. I think nitaishia hapo, labda kama kutakuwa na maswali mengine.
So Dr. Anna Much, I'm going to ask you in English, because a couple of people who are here, they want to know it in English. So it's when you have those board rounds for all disciplinaries to come and share the information from one shift to the next, who is going home, who is staying, and everybody is in the same page in reality. So what happens if the hospital don't have that board rounds? What happens if they can't huddle before going to the patient's room? What do you have any options or suggestions for them?
I think that is something that can easily be introduced. It's very, very simple. You just need to be, I wouldn't say organized, but I think we just need to be to try and introduce changes, and embrace them, and say, okay, so why don't we try this? For example, I introduced my board rounds at 11:30, we all meet. So there's this very well-defined time that you all meet. If it's a social worker, if it's a physiotherapist, if it's a doctor, even if you've not finished the ward round, you all meet. Anyone can lead the ward round. So you go through all the patients who are in the ward, like so-and-so came in with this problem. Today we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and who is going to be responsible for this thing, and when are we expecting this patient to go home? If they are not going to go home, or if there's anything that will stop this patient from going home today, what is it and what can we do to facilitate that? So I think it's a very good culture because it's for patient safety to start with. So it ensures that the patient is safe, well informed, and everyone who is looking after that patient is aware of what's going on with the patient. So yeah, it can easily be introduced.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to reserve the time to come and call you back. So I'm going to let Miss Zainab Kisha, if you can introduce her, please.
All right, the second panelist is Ms. Zainab Ahmed Al-Jabri, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, has experience of 10 plus years in healthcare settings, specifically 6 years as a registered nurse experience known as Skypla, graduated with Bachelor of Nursing from Osmet Metropolitan University, finished advanced Norwegian course with Bergestens at well, I can say that. It's Faken University. Her nursing clinical background included cancer unit, psychiatric unit, and infectious department at hospital. Has been living in Norway for 23 years, and now she is a new member of QHSC. Now, welcome, Ms. Zainab Al-Jabri.
Thank you, Kisha. You know, here we talk in Norwegian language, so somewhat it's difficult. I have that scenario video, the one I sent to you,
yes,
Dr. Harriet.
Yes, hold on a second.
I just want to say that we are two, me and my friend. She's also ex-colleague. Her name is Khadija Mtoka. So yeah, maybe you can show them. Yeah,
can you see my screen?
I can see. Yeah.
So if everybody probably have to turn up a little volume a little bit higher.
Hello, good morning. Morning. How are you today? I'm not feeling well. I haven't slept that well. Okay. And I have a headache. I just don't feel well. I don't know if you could give me some painkillers. Really? Or anything to make me feel better. Okay. Yeah. Is it a headache? Yes. And I've told you that I haven't slept well, so. Excuse me, just 1 minute, okay? Come in. Hello, Miss Khadija. Hello. My name is Zainab. I'll be your nurse today. Hello, Zainab. Hi, how are you? Well, I'm not feeling well. I didn't sleep well last night. The nurse that was here last night, she was just being so unprofessional. She didn't pay any attention to me, and yeah. Oh, that was so sad. We as nurses, we are supposed to help you. I'm very sorry for what happened, and I'll talk to the nurse who was responsible. And we will be helped. I hope so. Yeah. I'm here today, and I'll help you. What about my CT scan results? Have they come in? I did talk to them half an hour ago, and they said about in 1 hour from now they'll be ready. When they ready, and I will be here with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you experience any pain?
No, I'm fine right now, thank you.
Okay. Can I bring some food for you or drink?
Maybe a drink would be nice.
Okay. I have we have apple juice and we have I could warm milk. I want a glass of milk for you if you want to.
Yeah, could try it.
Okay, that's good. Do you need more pillow? Maybe one extra.
Maybe I could use one for my back.
Okay, that's good. Then I'll go and bring one extra pillow and 1 cup of milk.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Will you be coming here tomorrow as well?
Yes, I'll be here tomorrow. I'll be
That's
here
nice.
tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, Miss Khadija, I'm coming back soon, okay?
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Hang there, okay?
All right, thanks. Zainab, there's another patient for you.
Okay. Is she here?
She's already here.
She was supposed to be here at 12 o'clock.
Well, she's here now.
Okay, I haven't finished this one. Could you help me?
I can have our own break.
But Khadija, we need to help each other.
Well, that's your job.
But I can't
I'm on
be.
break right now, so
I can't be in 2 places at the same time.
I cannot be having my break and helping you either. So I have to take my break. It's not my problem. Hello, Zainab.
Hello, Khadija.
How far have you come with your work today?
Yeah, a lot of paperwork.
Well, there's another patient here for you, but do you think you can manage it? You can look at it. Because if you don't have time, I could help you with it. Because my patients right now, they're sleeping and I was about to go on break, so I could maybe give you a help.
Can you help me?
Yes.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Oh my God, that was so nice of you.
Yeah.
I know you have had a
We
lot
have
today
to
too.
help each other, you know, teamwork, so.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Khadija. When I'm finished, I promise I'll come back to you. Okay?
Okay, no
Thank you.
Right.
My angel.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The video, both of them, the first one is between the communication between the nurse and the patient, and you can see the first one. It was a bad approach. The nurse is unprofessional, and she has a mobile and loud, and she is not there. And you can see the patient. She noticed everything, and she is not satisfied with everything. And then the next approach was better, and we saw the nurse has been cared, and she feels the nurse is there. And at the end, we see she also asked the nurse, will you be here tomorrow? So by seeing that, when we are interacting with the patients, we have to think like, okay, one day if I will be a patient, how would I like to be helped? Something like that. And the other one is the teamwork. We have seen the other one, she was busy going to break. while the other one was working, and she asked for help, but the colleague didn't want to help because she thought that was not her responsible because the patient was not on her list. So that we can see that teamwork was not good. And the next one, we saw before the nurse who was responsible, before she asked for the help, the colleague offered the help. So that should be, we work as a unit. Anything, we have to be flexible, we have to help each other, and we are there. That's why we are paid for. So we have to work together. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zainab. And for your scenario and Dr. Anna Mushi's comments, so takeaway, at least for me, one of the takeaway was working together. And so for Dr. Anna Mushi, it's like having a board round, having all the disciplinaries to be able to come together and discuss about the patient and have the same story so the patient knows what is happening. And for your 4 scenarios there together, yes, being a team player is important. And if you can assess and see the other person is working, whether it's a doctor or nurse, or if the doctor has too many patients, so then try to help them if you don't have people coming to your spot. And for the nurses, again, if you see the other nurses struggling with one side of the group of the patient, maybe they have a patient heavy workload. So just being humble and creating that culture of safety, because you're gonna help that nurse today, and tomorrow probably they're gonna help you, and when you have a heavier workload. And of course, as I said, at the end, you benefit that patient, because that's what we are trying to do for these patients in creating a safer environment for us to work. I was told there was a question from chat from, what was the question? Someone told me that there was a question from the chat.
Oh, let me put my volume. The question from the chat that Dana from Zainab particularly, but we have a few questions I can address from previous panelists.
Anything of the professionalism, teamwork, or communication?
Yes.
Okay, one of them.
Mr. Gabone asked, do you conduct some education program or training to keep healthcare professionals updated as far as staying professional?
I think Dr. Mlawa did touch on it. Is the question directed to a specific person or any of the professionals?
It wasn't, but I was thinking it was directed more to Mr. Mutalemwa.
Mr. Mutalemwa, did you hear the question?
No. Can you say it again?
Do you conduct some educational programs or training to keep healthcare professionals updated as far as staying professional?
Yes. I think we do. For example, in my hospital where I'm working, and every week on Wednesday, we have nurses conferences and meetings, whereby we usually host some presentation pertaining to nursing profession. And sometimes we do rotate in different departments, so each department to perform presentations. But sometimes we have some of the orations from the governmental boards, for example, TNMC, and also align the I can say aspects that are based to nurses. So in my hospital, I think every week on Wednesday we do this. So this equips nurses, and also it helps because there have been some of nurses who have been staying here in the hospital. Then they even not get the chance to go to school or to get some new updates. So this is a very light pulpit for the people to get some updates. I think it is so helpful, especially here in our hospital.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Katunzi.
I have more questions. Okay,
what is the other question?
The other question was from Mr. Saloka. He was asking, do we have any enforceable policy regarding culture of safety for patients? He was this for anybody, US, Tanzania, and UK. think he meant like enforceable policy.
I mean, I can speak for some of the hospitals. As an educator, we usually have policies specifically addressing those 5 pillars. I mean, communication, things that you can do, I mean, within the unit or for people who you are working with or outside the unit. So those are the ones which you bound for HIPAA, like what information can you share? As a nurse or a doctor, can you discuss the patient's information in the elevator, going outside in the cafeteria? You are not supposed to do that. So there are policies in place specifically for things that you can do while you're taking care of the patient, and you cannot do when you're outside the working environment. You cannot discuss patient's care outside the hospitals. You have to be within the environment of the hospitals. You cannot post, for example, if you're working labor and delivery, you cannot post a baby being born or you help delivering the baby and post that picture on the social media. No, the patient can post with you if you allow them. They can post on the social media, but you cannot, because that is almost disclosing patient's information. You cannot do that. So I mean, there's a specific guidance, and usually they're based on the human resource. I mean, like when you're hired, those are standard, the hospital standard that you have to adhere, and which include all those 5 pillars. And then there are also clinical setting guidelines that specifically when you're working, how much you can share information, what the patients, what can you share, the results or not results, what the patient should do for you to be able to disclose that, or if you're transferring a patient from one hospital to the next, how much information can be taken out if the patient has to sign that paper to say, yes, you can transfer my information from one hospital to another. So there are usually a lot of guidelines here, for example, United States. I know Mr. Mutalema did say some of the information and the information is offered. What about Mr. Filbert? Are there those guidelines in your hospital area, the places that you work? Are you here, Mr. Filbert?
There was I was going to say there was a question from Anna Masawe that was directed to you, Dr. Gaboni.
Okay. Once is he there? No. Maybe Dr. Anna Mushi, if you can answer for you. I know Dr. Gideon Imlawa did answer that question. That is specific protocols of things that they need to do. Do you know, Dr. Anna Mushi, if you have anything to add to guidelines at the hospital, things that you can or cannot share?
Oh yes, so there are guidelines at the hospital for what we can share and what we cannot share. Yes, so anyone, any employee, once when you get employed in the trust, you need to go through some modules, and through that, then you learn all these things: what to share, when to share, where to share, and who to share with. And yes, yeah, so they're there. And so I remember Mr. Katunzi was saying something about, well, there are different, some you can get new employees at different times. But as long as you do have printed guidelines, for example, or something that's on the intranet, if you do have intranet with policies, it doesn't really matter when the person joined in. As long as, there's this package, you need to go through these guidelines, there's this pack, you need to read everything, including those guidelines on what to do in these situations. I think that can be helpful if they'll be able to introduce that, instead of just brushing things off and saying, you know what, because you were late for the induction, then you are excused not to know these things. So they should start, they can introduce those things.
Okay, and thank you, Dr. Anamushi. I know Ms. Kisha is an educator for one of the undisclosed hospitals. If you can give us maybe a minute or so for usually what the routine, when a new person is coming, if you can walk us through that process, so then we know what information is given, regardless what, like Dr. Anamushi said, regardless of the time. Usually, how do you, how many times in a year, for example, you do the orientation, or what information do you put through the information, just general terms?
So technically, when somebody comes as either a new employee or graduate nurse or any employee of any department in general, they have to go through screening. This will including, you know, if you have any legal issues or if you have any general disease that you could be infectious to anybody else. So once you pass through that, and then you come to us in training and development. So we do train based on where you're going. If you are specific a nurse as a nursing and acute care, so you have to go through all this training. And this is including a safety of the patients, including communication, including professionalism. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do. You can spend probably 2 days just do training on a computer before you haven't even touch anything on the floor. You also have to go through skills competencies. You need to be capable and you need to be competent of identify in a situation such as if a patient is unresponsive, what do? You just don't call for help and just walk away. You need to be competent to do CPR. You need to be competent to identify all those safety in a risky situation. So in terms of education, we do have ongoing education twice a year. This is most computerized. You have to go through core measures such as stroke, MI, pneumonia, surgical infections, and things like that. So you read information, you do some tests, and you're done. And then we have a skills fair where you do the same thing, and we do twice a year, and you have to show your competencies and how to perform these things. And this could be the daily stuff that you deal with, such as to start IV or to change your dressing or to give medication, just to make sure that every nurse on the unit know what they're supposed to be doing. You may be a nurse for 20, 30 years and you've been doing the same thing for 20 years and they may be wrong, even though you have not killed anybody yet, but you have to stay up to date. You have to stay current with ongoing education. So we do that. And we follow every employee at least twice a year to make sure they're up to date with all the skills and the training they're supposed to have. We have policies as well. So we educate the DSS and all employees where to find these policies. So basically the policies are your guidelines. They're like your Bible. If you don't know how to deal with the situation, you pull that policy. As long as you follow that policies, you're fine. You don't follow what somebody else tells you to do, and that could be wrong. So, and of course, you cannot say, so told me to do this. So you have to be confident and you have to be accountable. Of course, the supervisor will be involved, the charge nurses will be involved, and you will also encourage the employers as well. If when in doubt or when they feel like they're not comfortable to do anything, they always come back on the training development, and we retrain them, re-educate them. And then when the supervisors get issues for employers who maybe in terms of a safety issue, maybe somebody give information that they are not supposed to give. It depends on the severity of the situation. They will stand back to us for more training and more education. So we give you that chance to make sure, you know, we train you well and you understand what you're supposed to do. But then if you keep doing the same mistake, of course, people end up losing their job. So this is very, very serious, and it's not something that you can just take lightly. When it comes to patient, it's patient's life and the patient's safety. So as well as maintaining patients as well, but we also have those committees that take care of the nurses as well. So if you're dealing with a situation where maybe the patient is trying to get you fired or get you in trouble, I mean, you have people who will be working with you to make sure you're also taken care as well. As long as all you're doing is the right thing and you're following the policies and you're being accountable. And as all of you know, here in the United States, our registered nurses are licensed. So this license, anybody can go and find it. So if you do anything wrong to a patient or you harm the patients, that license is going to be centered somewhere where you may not be able to be hired anywhere else because of what you have done. So those licenses are more like our identity. So every time when you work, you are dealing with a situation, you have to think about how hard you work for that license. So this is what keeps us online. Even if you have difficult time at work, you have to consider that the chances that you will be accountable for your actions. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for giving us the rundown of how to, when you receive a new patient and what the expectations are. So then, yeah, all those 5 pillars are embedded in the orientation, and that's why people have to know. And as Ms. Kisha said, yeah, those, if you make a mistake, then you go back to the education departments and get trained a little bit more, or reminded for what you've done, and then to be able to rectify and learn from it and then move on. I just found the question from Anna Masawe, and she's asking that taking care of a patient with HIV, and should we disclose that information because so you can protect the other people, or what should we do? So as far as I know, for example, in the United States, you're not supposed to treat the patient and identify their infectious potentials without patient consent, including HIV. So we are supposed to take care of the patient with all basic protections. You know, like if you're taking care of the patient, there's any fluid, potential for touching fluid, or starting an IV, or doing anything that is gonna break the skin of the patient, you have to wear gloves, including if the patient has an HIV, if you're wearing gloves and you're protecting yourself, you don't poke yourself with the needle, then you should be fine, because you're not going to say, oh, this room has a patient with HIV. You cannot do that, because that means you're disclosing information for people who do not need to know that part. And that leads to biases, or that leads to stigma to that patient. You cannot do that. You can tell them that if a patient was an infectious patient, I mean, there's an infectious disease in the room, then you can cover that patient. You can identify by putting the signs that the patient has an infectious disease, so then you should be aware of those isolation precautions. But you cannot say that this patient has HIV and then so everybody knows that part. No, only the person who is taking care of that patient, either hypertension, diabetes, or whatever the diagnosis is and the history of HIV, you still have to protect yourself without mentioning that. So if you follow those basic standard, you should be okay without disclosing that part, unless that patient is taken care of. I mean, unless that nurse is taking care of that patient.
I have something to
Dr.
add
Gaboni,
there.
she also mentioned if the patient is actively trying to infect other people.
So if the patient has behaved, I mean, like you have, as a nurse, you've noticed the patient has those behavior, like, you know, like try purposefully or to, so then report that in the situation. So once you report it, you do have ethical committees in the hospitals, or you have your manager, supervisor who can address those issues. And if that is a situation that the patient is purposefully or intending to infect other patients, then there's channels you can address the situation. And then by then for the safety of, let the managers and the ethical team make that decision and notify people who are coming to that patient's room. Remember, the people who are going to that room are going to be taking care of the patient. So they do have the right to know that patient has that diagnosis. Does anybody, Dr. Mlawa, Anna Mushi, if you have any added?
Dr. Mlawa tried to answer that question. Maybe you can give him a
Oh,
chance
okay.
to talk
If Dr. Mlawa is there, please.
So I think the way I understood, that's the right account, Dr. Gabone, but the way I understood from that question is, I've done HIV medicine in this country as a junior doctor, and I see patients with HIV. In London is a cosmopolitan city, so we see the whole world is here. So we see different diseases, including HIV. And I think when we see a patient, if you get a new diagnosis of HIV on a patient, we always ask them, who do you live with? Have you got a partner? And we ask them that, should we inform the partner? The partner has right to know that maybe their partner have got HIV. And if we say that, what kind of profession they've got? So based on that, the patient can say yes. But if we think that the public is at risk of getting the HIV, it's our duty, obligation to make sure that we protect the general public at large. But always we get a consent from the patient. But in this case, I'm talking about close relatives, such as a partner. So it is important to look at that in that aspect. But if we are looking at a patient who has got HIV within the unit, within the ward, yes, the healthcare professionals looking after that patient, they will know, but not other patients. I'll give you a parallel example of, I see patients who are, they've got a new diagnosis of diabetes, or patient with epilepsy. If they are diagnosed for the first time, we tell them that they have to inform the driving licensed authority, it's their duty to do that. But if they are saying that they cannot inform those authorities, we can tell them that it's our duty, obligation to try to inform them, to try to inform the authority to protect other people. Because if someone with epilepsy goes driving, can cause an accident, then kill a lot of people because of that. So that applies to somebody with HIV. If they've got a partner, close relative, I think they live together and they're at risk of getting infection, we have to ask the patient first that, are you able to inform your next of kin or your partner?
Okay. Thank you.
And advise them in terms of how to ensure that they don't transmit infection.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mla.
Much for the good response with regard to the HIV disclosure of information. I think here we have trying to adapt something like in a local way. For example, for the pregnant women, those who are identified to be HIV positive during antenatal visits, at first we have what we call the RCH card number 4. I think many of Tanzanians, you know this card. So we used to write PMCC2, PMCTC1, which means the 2 for whoever is safe and 1 for one who is not who has been affected. And then majority they came to realize that writing 1 or 2 was an indication that somebody can easily trace out. And then many of them, they were like trying to change the numbers. And then nowadays they have come with a very good system, which is they just write on the top of the dose card. For example, if somebody is at high risk, they write HALA. And then if somebody is at low risk, they write LO-ALA. So for the healthcare provider, when he's getting some medical intervention to that patient, it can be easy for him or her to identify that somebody is in high risk of being infecting me or whoever. So he's taking some precautions. I think this method have really helped a lot in assassination those days whereby many of our healthcare providers they are becoming contacted unknowingly because many of the patients they used to change those numbers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that system of protecting the providers. Yes.
We also have a raised hand from Bryson and Kinga.
Yeah, I think it's very important about the confidentiality.
Yes.
I think we need to, there are certain time when we need to disclose the information, especially to the healthcare team, so that to protect them. For instance, a patient is HIV positive, so there is a need to disclose the information to the healthcare team to make them safe. But to the general public, I think there is a need for the patient himself to give consent on whom to share the information. So that's the thing I want to talk about.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so because we were talking about teamwork and communication, now we're going to finishing up with accountability and competence. And then so I have, okay, thank you. So there was this case study for a patient in medical surgical unit, was there for diagnosis of hypertension. He was a 51-year-old male. His medical history has the diabetes and GERD, and his current medication was hydroxyzine 50 milligrams TID, that's 3 times a day. The aspirin 81 milligrams daily, metformin 500 milligram BID, that's twice a day. Metropol 50 milligram BID. Ventus 10 units BID at, should be given at 7 in the morning and 1700, which is 5 p.m. in the evening. So the orders include also doing vital signs every 4 hours, and then hold medication if systolic blood pressure is below 100. And then fasting blood sugars, you should call the MD if it's below 60 or above 400, and then using the sliding scale. So this is like a typical patient in medical surgical unit. So as a nurse, you're given this report, and this is your patient. And then we do have either PCA, which is patient care associate, or CNA, certified nurse assistant, or for Tanzania, I know you have medical attendants. So they go and do vitals, and they'll come and bring you these vitals before you see the patient. So the blood pressure is 150/70, heart rate is 59, and the temperature is 98.6, and the heart rate is, the respiration is 20, and the blood sugar they did is 100 milligrams. So as a nurse, if you're given this scenario, what are the things that you need to pay attention? Remember, you have to be competent. You have to be able to know your patients, and you have to good communication with your physician to make sure you take care of this patient. So what are the things that, I'm gonna give probably like 5 seconds to think, and then we'll try to find a brave person who's gonna answer this question.
Heart rate.
I see Kisa, is Kisa there? I see her raising her hand. Kisa, can you help me?
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. This is a medical surgical unit. This is your unit, your experience in the med surg. So what are the things that as a nurse, let's say I'm a new nurse, I'm giving this patient and I'm not familiar with some of the medication. So what exactly do I need to pay attention to this area? And probably Dr. Mlara, I'm sure he's gonna answer this question, and Dr. Anna Moish is gonna help me.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Oh, this is good case study. First of all, I don't see if the patient has allergies or not. Does this patient has allergies? That's where I'm gonna start.
No allergies.
No allergies, okay. So my name is Kisa Mokaling. I'm the supervisor in ICU, but I work in med-surg unit. So this is a med-surg unit. As a nurse, I'm gonna look the vital sign, and the vital sign, blood pressure is high. And then I see the medication, 2 medication which really look alike, sound alike, metoprolol and the metformin. Sometimes there's a lot of people make a mistake, so you have to be aware there's a medication which look alike and sound alike. So I'm gonna start from medication room to make sure this medication are separated, and then I know what the side effect of this medication. And the metoprolol, I have to give metoprolol 50 milligrams, but the heart rate is 59. So what's the normal? I have to know what the normal heart rate. 59 is kind of low, so I will question the doctor if she still want to give it to me. And then it's okay to question the doctor, because sometimes maybe the time he wrote medication, the patient heart rate was higher than 59. So I want to be empower the nurse and to be able to communicate without being brushed off. And there's no stupid question. All the questions are valuable because you're dealing with a human being. So you don't want to do anything which can cause harm to the patient. And I'm also gonna go back to Keisha where he said competence. So before the nurse came to the hospital, they have to do training. And this training go hand in so many things. Nursing education, you have to work with nursing education to make sure this nurses, they complete the training, and they have a checklist that they will be able to give medication. And then if you think that nurses is not able to complete their training within a reasonable time, everybody's different. So you can add the time to make sure they get adequate training. And the parameter for the blood pressure, they say if this blood pressure is below 100. I would like it to have the parameters, not only below 100. So if the parameter give between this, and then if not, call the doctor. I think the doctor has to be more clear. But so again, I'll communicate with the doctor. So this case study covers so many things. Communication. So again, to communicate with the doctor in a timely manner, and either I can call the doctor by the phone, or I can just tell the doctor, please just look at this order, maybe you need to change. The nurse is accountable for making sure you give medication and you know side effect. So accountable, who you're gonna reach if you need help. If you give this medication for the first time and you never you never give this medication, so we have resources that will help us. For example, I can reach to the pharmacy. Remember, the nursing is a teamwork. We work with the pharmacists, we work with the doctors, and we work with the team. So I can question the pharmacist if that is okay. I can call the doctor to make sure it's okay to give this medication. I can call the doctor for clarification. And then also I may need this, I may need my supervisor to be able to help me if I never give this medication, because sometimes you are very new, you don't know certain things, and even if you finish training, you can still go back and ask this question. So that's why I say you have to have somebody who trained. We call them preceptor here in the United States. Preceptor is somebody who's finished the training to train others. She must be professional. She must maintain professionalism all the time, because you don't want somebody who training you and has attitude, because that also can interact with your learnings. Because if somebody you don't understand, then it is a problem. So you have to reach out to the supervisor and they say, you know what, this person is training me, but I don't understand, or maybe there's issues we have to address. While you are trained, there must be follow-up, meaning that every week, preceptor or somebody who's training you, and the person who's trained and the supervisor and the educator, they have to meet to discuss what is needed for this person. Maybe she's good in medication, but maybe she didn't do certain procedure. So that's the time to sit down and talk about that. And there must be the follow-up. So there's a follow-up every 3 months after you finish training. So training is about 2 to 3 months. And then after that 3 months, you must do evaluation. So that's why I say things go by hand. Evaluation, which go to HR, like this person did the training and she's doing good. If you're not doing well, you can be retrained again, but they will give a chance. And if you continue to do the same mistake, then quality assurance is gonna be notified. Any error that happened in the hospital, we have to notify QI. QI, which is quality assurance, they will follow up and they will do investigation. Why this nurse made a mistake? Is a human error, it's a system error. And they use that case study to train others with the nursing education. That's why I say everything go hand by hand. So nursing education, they'll say, okay, this person was supposed to get this medication, metoprolol or metformin, but this was wrong medication was given. There's a defect in the package, or what was the problem? And again, they will have to report to the hospital, and it used as learning lesson, because you don't want somebody to die because the mistake which is happening by enemies. Communication, I think the nurse has to be empowered to talk to the doctors. Doctor also make a mistake. There's a lot of mistake doctor make, but as a team, you can prevent that from happening. Because we are all human beings. Nurses make a mistake, doctors making a mistake, and you know a lot of patients dying in the hospital because of medication error. So don't be brushing everything and you think like, oh, you know, it happened. I don't want to say about this. I can give you my own experience. I was a new nurse. I make a mistake. When the finger stick of the patient was 90, I give medication, insulin, regular insulin for somebody who I thought was 400. So did I report? Yes, you do have to report. And then it was taken care. So you have to be honest. There's no, I mean, it is better to prevent something from happening than keep as a secret. We are all human beings, but we don't want to repeat the mistake. You do once, and you don't want it to repeat again and again until somebody's life is gone. Accountability, you are accountable. Once you take that patient, you say, yes, this is my patient, you're accountable to take care of the patient. If you think you don't know something, then you have to reach out either to the head nurse or to the charge nurse. And the charge nurse also, you have to remember, you are reliable if you assign somebody who doesn't know to do something. You are guilty as anybody, because you have to nurture these nurses to make sure they go to the right place and you keep them. Again, Keisha talked about the license. If you do the mistake, the hospital can discuss. They can see how they're gonna help. But then if it's a sentinel event, like somebody lost their life, then it has to be reported to the state. They will suspend your license sometimes, and then, or they will take your license away from you. I think
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking the challenge and jump in there with both feet.
Thank you.
I am gonna call upon Dr. Mlau. Is Dr. Mlau still there?
Yes.
Yes, so I know the scenario or the case study, sorry, was a patient, could have been a patient, you are a patient. And so as a doctor, I'm not saying that you order the medication, but as a doctor and you want to teach me as a new nurse how to care for this patient, what are the things that you expect the nurse should know or pick up on that patient to make sure they alert you? And then what should they have before they call you to make sure that you're getting the right information to make the right decision?
I think with that is a good scenario has been given, but there are two issues in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Whether if you give the medication to that patient, I'm going to have low blood pressure. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is the risk of hypoglycemia. That if you give insulin to that patient, when their glucose level is less than 60, I think that's USA measurement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's going to cause hypoglycemia. So on this scenario, I think you can add the issue of communication as well, both verbal and written communication.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was an instruction written by a doctor that this is a plan for the patient, then you are the nurse coming on duty. I expect someone to hand over to you verbally saying that Mr. X is diabetic, is hypertensive, is taking these medications, but don't give the medication when the blood pressure is less than this, or when sugar level is less than this. That's a verbal handover. But also, you can go and read the notes where it's written. So that's about communication.
Yes.
But as a doctor, I'm looking after that patient. You are phoning me to let me know about the patient.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask to know about what are their vital signs. And if they've come to you, they are diabetic, they've got high blood pressure, I would expect you to tell me about their blood pressure, their temperature, their saturation, what's their sugar level for the time being, and are you due to give the medication now? And based on that, I will say that what was your handover from your nursing colleague? And if we are not sure, I will say that I'll come and talk to you face to face and go through the notes of the patient.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I comment to that, Dr. Anna Mushi, do you have anything to add to it? If that was your patient, what do you expect from the a nurse? Is she here?
Yeah, she's here, but I think she's muted. Oh,
I was mute.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I agree with what Kisa and Gideon said. That the most important thing is communication and teamwork and reviewing the patient. I agree with all that.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you. So
can I add something?
Yeah.
Into the scenario. Those viral signs were taken by somebody else. So when in doubt, you can, as a nurse, you can do those viral signs yourself as well to make sure that 59 is actually 59, because basically just general basics, the heart rate has to be 60/100. You just like 1 point below. It could be how the patient was when the viral signs was taken, how the blood pressure cuff was when the person, was doing this. So also you can do that as well to make sure those numbers are correct before you jump into make it a doctor, make a decision on what you should or should not do. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. In fact, that's what I was going to say, and you stole my thought, which is fine. Just to add to it, I mean, I will encourage all the nurses, I will empower all the nurses that increasing the communication between the doctors. What I've observed so far working in the teaching hospital for 10 years is when you notify the doctor or you call the doctor, you should be ready to call the doctor. Not like what Kisa just said, you don't look at the vitals, somebody else did the vitals, and then you see the patient, and then you just call the doctor. And the doctor is going to start asking a question, like what Dr. Mlawa said, and Dr. Anamushi said, that, what, I mean, when did you do the vitals? Start repeating. You don't need to be asked those questions. Those questions, you should answer them before you call them. So like what Keisha said, you're given those vitals, maybe they were done at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. You finish your report, and by the time you get those information, it's like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. Do another set right now, assess that patient. Because remember, the person who did the vitals did not do assessment. They collect data and just report it to you. So now you need to do vital signs with clinical assessment on that patient at that moment and ask them how they feel first before calling the doctor. When you decide to call the doctor, you can just say initial blood pressure was this, and now I repeated that when the patient is doing A, B, C, D. So if you give them that concrete data, and then so they will be able to be in a better position to give you new orders or hold those orders or change the order or come and see this patient to make sure the evaluation is pertinent. So when you call the doctor with all this information, I understand and I agree 110%. No doctor is going to say, don't call me back or something like that. Because you've already done half of the assessment. And then so now they have information in front of them. So my advice and encouragement to all the nurses, all of us, that when you decide you're giving information that does not meet the picture of the patient, then let's do your investigation. Let's collect more data and to try and associate how the patient is presenting and what the patient, what data are we collecting from them. And then call the doctor and then they will have that conversation that maybe the patient needs more attention, maybe change the medication, or please come and see this patient now. And that will create that safety culture of working, feeling that you have the same contribution, like what Dr. Anamushi said before in the communication, that we are all at the same level. So if you have that being empowered that way, then yeah, report that information with confidence, being competent because you know what you're doing. Even if the doctor asks you a question, you can say, yeah, I already checked the blood pressure and this is what I see from what the patient is. And then so that will help to increase the communication and build that confidence and competent environment. So everybody will feel safe. But then also remember the patient is going to benefit from both of you working very well together. And then we can ensure their safety. But remember, I always say, think back. You as a patient, would you want, what type of nurse or doctor you want to take care of you? So if you see the situation like that, I guarantee you're going to be able to change your practice and try to do the best that you can every single time. Imagine that you're the one who's at the bed there waiting for the somebody to take care of you.
I think Zainab Al-Jabri raised her hand. I'm not sure if she still wants to contribute.
I was just, she said almost the same I was thinking. It was just that when was taken, and even the blood sugar, when was taken, was the patient was just eating like 10 minutes ago, 1 hour ago, and then there was, you took the blood sugar, or has gone 2 hours. So it's almost the same, like Dr. Harith and Keisha said. And even the blood pressure, it was 150 systolic. Might be that's the the patient's normal blood pressure. So like you said, you have to see the patient first, and then you have to take the vital signs before you talk to the doctor. It was the same, I was thinking, like you said. Yeah.
Thank you. Is Mr. Filbert still here, or Mr. Katunzi?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, quick question regarding that case study. For in places that you have worked, do the nurses have the do the nurses work with the medical attendants? Do they have that communication easily communicated with the doctors, or do they do rounds with the doctor, what Dr. Anamushi was talking about, rounds to get the information of the patient? Do they have that close relationship to learn about their patient? or is something
No,
that you
actually,
might be able to?
no, actually, I should declare that actually not in specifically in my place, but generally in Tanzania, now we are really facing this problem, and many of nurses, they don't want to have a stiff communication with doctors or sometimes with other healthcare providers because of inferiority complex. Inferiority complex is a very bad thing which is ruining the bright work that has been done by nurses. For example, you find like maybe somebody is taking charge of the certain patient and is recognized that the patient condition has changed, but he or she cannot haste to call a doctor just to explain. First of all, because maybe when he might be asked what is going on, and then maybe he might not be in a position to respond, or sometimes some of the doctors, because of their status, because many of them, they are like trying to have healed by the system. So sometimes when they are called by nurses, they don't take care, and sometimes many of them they can try to say that if you have, what have you done before you call me, what have you done? And then when you try to say I've done this and this and this, and then this is the end of my demarcation, from there on you should proceed on. So then no, just keep on doing that, and then finally when the bad results happen to the patients, doctors are the ones who just run away from nurses because of the something that have been done might be long or light. So, and the other thing in connection to that, it is poor documentation. So I have seen many occasions, nurses, they just call doctors and then they don't document. And then at the end of the day, when any issues arise, they're not in a position just to defend themselves. So I think this is a very big problem, but I'm happy to see that in your settings, people that are so organized, and then they know their demarcations that went for the doctor, then they have to do A, B, C before for the doctor. But here, I think we should much try to insist on what to do, basically on these emergency situations. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, and I appreciate for your honesty. But yeah, so that's a part of the reason that we try to discuss and learn from anywhere, learning those best practice to try and help each other as healthcare workers. Because as I said, the nurses cannot work in silo, meaning they cannot work by themselves. We do need our colleagues, doctors, and the doctors cannot work by themselves. They do need us. So we need each other to be able to take care of this of the patients. So, and communication is huge between, among those 5 pillars, because you have to be able to demonstrate or explain what you are doing to a patient and then relay that information to the doctor, and the doctor come and see the patient, and you guys have to be in a plan of care, we call it. Like the patient has to be there, the doctor has to be there, the nurse has to be there, and all the other disciplines that are supposed to take care of that patient, they have to be there to be able to communicate and to be able to be on the same page. Like what Dr. Anna Mushi said, doing those board rounds, including everybody else, so then you know who is going to stay, who is going to go home, who has the issue last night. Maybe they took medication and then my blood pressure is so low. Now we need to monitor them a little bit closely. So those are the things that from the discussion, I'm hoping at the end of the day, people will take away to be able to say, if you don't have board rounds in your hospitals, try and implement it. Or if you have any issues, try reach over here, and if you have any question, we can ask Dr. Anna Mush, probably work with us together and try to develop that part so you can be able to get that resource and access to the nurses. If there's something that we need to address about professionalism or accountability or anything else, and we can work together, then yes, let's do that, because if we help each other, we are going to benefit our families over there, and we're going to create a safe environment where we want to go to work and enjoy your work. So that is one of the reasons that we did this conference, and I'm glad all the panelists, thank you very much, all the attendees, great questions. So we are going to continue answering the question. We're almost there towards the end, and I thank everybody for your contribution. Irene, do we have questions from the chat?
We have one more. He asked if, do healthcare professionals explain to patients about sharing of their health information, like when they go to the hospital?
I'm going to invite Mr. Philbert. Did you hear that question, Mr. Philbert, to give us your insight on that one?
healthcare professionals explain to patients about sharing of their information? In person, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, for the health education teacher I'm working here, there is that safety of communicating with the patient on the area of information sharing and testing. But for us, the way we do, we just talk to the patient and to know who it is eligible a person or eligible person to share the information with. And that person should be documented in the file as the name of the king as the eligible person to get the information of the patient. And apart from that, the information are not shared unless there is a consent from the patient. So the patient has the full mandate, the full power to suggest for who to share the information and who not to share the information. But all in all, the authorization, there's someone who is authorized to get the information to the patient is the next of kin who has been approved as the patient as the one to share the information regarding his or her medical relationship in the system as well. So the information has shared upon with the next of kin who is documented in the file.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Filbert. Yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, having it documented, it does help to keep records. And agree with Mr. Filbert that when that discussion is happening, to make sure we document it so people will know who can get the information, because it is beneficial for the family member to know if their family member is sick, and also how much information can be disclosed. And then so I know that question was directed to Mr. Filbert and Mr. Katunzi. Mr. Katunzi, do you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to share just a little bit experience on my clinic as I'm working with diabetic patients and the hypertensive patients. And then I'll try to base much on diabetic patients. You know, a lot of diabetic patients, when they once become diagnosed, many of them, they have a glycine, and sometimes it's a little bit hard for them to expose their status because they just feel like they're going to die soon. But most of the time when we found them being diagnosed, we try to explain to them the importance of disclosing the information, because despite of using medication, the issue of diet and all stuffs are very, 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 very important. So we just try to explain them the importance of sharing with their family members, because they like to eat some certain kind of food which will not be general to other people. So, and sometimes if they seems to be very reluctant, we just pose the chance to them, because as we know that the decision of sharing or disclosing the information, it is very, very, very important. But according to the system we have in our clinic, especially for the type 1 diabetes patients, the ones who take insulin, it is so competent that with whatever the patient is able or is not ready to disclose the information, we usually try to find the means on how we can try to involve the family members so that they can be in the good sense of giving the care to the patient. That is what we do. But the other things, the disclosing of patient information, we give them information and then they choose on their own whether to share or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Katunzi.
I would like to add on that, like the way things, what we do in our facilities, when patients come in, or most patients, we encourage them to have like a healthcare proxy if they choose to. So then we can share their medical information with their healthcare proxy. Also, we, especially for like the older generation, we ask them, like the older, you have an older patient, then family will be calling to ask how their patients are doing, if there's anything you are doing, especially like families that are not like in the same city. like they're living outside the area, so they're not able to see their patient. So we like to ask them to name like a few family members that we can talk to them in case they call and things like that. So I find that helpful because sometimes, yes, you don't want to give information to anybody, but sometimes, especially when you have older patients, you want their family to know what's going on with their patient. So we do that way.
Thank you very much, Ms. Irene, for sharing your insight. I just want to mention a little bit, Mr. Alexander Behuria mentioned great things which you on the chat I was just reading quickly, that we are all working for patients. So I do agree with Dr. Anna Mush when she was saying that we are all at the same level. I mean, I'm gonna steal her words. We are all at the same level, that nurses, doctors, housekeeping, I mean, pharmacy, anesthesia, wherever you are, all the healthcare, we're all at the same level, because if we work as a team and value each other, that is the best thing that can happen to healthcare workers. And we can create that culture of safety as we've been talking about. And that's the part which will make every healthcare person come in there confidently and professionally work and provide the best care. And the patient is gonna be benefiting. As I said, we can all see ourselves, we pray that it will never happen, but just it happens if you're a patient. You do want the nurses and doctors who are competent enough, professional enough, accountable for their actions, and they uphold the teamwork, and so they can share information with people who are responsible for your care, and be responsible enough to provide the best care for you. So I mean, with that, I mean, I just thank you, every single person who attended today. So if you can, everybody bring your videos. We want to say hi to everybody and thank you for a great communication. If you have any questions for attendees, panelists, hold on a second, let me make everybody on the screen. So if you have questions about all these topics that we've been discussing today, please send them to the email or share with us. So if there's a specific question for a specific panelist, I will let them know, and then they either will directly answer your question. If it's something that you refer to the future conferences, so the following conferences, we discuss that part. And as I said, I thank the people who keep coming back. I guess you guys have the same mission with us, and you are willing to provide time and work with us to be able to provide the care, education and training for everybody to share our best practice, and then to be able to help our fellow Tanzanians back home. And then, so I thank everybody else and just say hi to everybody else. If we have any questions and you want to visit our website again, Dr. Gaboni, QHSC.org, please come and visit us over there. If you want to join, be part of the QHS members, and then one day you want to participate in presentation or become active member, please contact and let me know. Then we appreciate all the people who want to dedicate their time and volunteer time to be able to work with us. So, oh, I didn't see Bupe, you were here from Australia, you didn't say anything. So without keeping anybody, taking more of your time, thank you very much, everybody. I don't see some people on the videos though. There's some people who are hiding.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for coming, and thank you for spending the Saturday with us, guys. And I appreciate your time. And please keep sending those questions. We want to hear, either for future communications or future conferences. We want to hear if you have a great idea, then we might make you part of the presenters so we can share what we can learn from you. And I welcome all the suggestions, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Bye. Until next. So we have the next conference in 2 weeks. Thank you.